As I got into it, sort of wrestling with that question of how did FDR bring hope to the country, I understood that so much of it was rooted in his own experience getting polio at age 39 and being wrenched from what had been a pretty ordered plan for his life and having to rethink his path and really develop all these new characteristics. And I saw that sort of described from the people who knew him best. Eleanor Roosevelt talked about the years immediately following FDR's polio as the period where he was forced to reckon with the fundamental principles of living. Louis Howe, who's a big figure, was a big figure in this house, is a big figure in my book, talked about how FDR would spend hours here in this house in the months immediately following leaving the hospital after getting polio. And he talked about it as the first time where he really thought about the world from the other fellow's point of view, in Howe's words. And he said that lying there, he grew bigger by the day. And so I wanted to sort of look at that story and look at that and what we could learn from that about how it really shaped FDR's character and shaped the way that he was able to bring hope to the presidency. And I think the moment that the book really sort of revealed itself to me was looking at letters that other polio patients wrote to FDR, starting from the very first weeks after his diagnosis was announced to the public in 1921. People wrote to him because he was a famous person. He had run for president in 1920 on the Democratic ticket as this sort of vigorous, athletic young man in a hurry. So it was a big shock when it was announced that he had what was called infantile paralysis. And other polio patients wrote to him, and some of them were seeking advice, but others were offering it. And one person wrote about his own experience. He was fully paralyzed. He had been in a hospital for 7 years. And he wrote about the ways that fear and anger and shame had sort of impeded his recovery. And his advice to FDR was, Mr. Roosevelt, don't worry, whatever you do, it won't help any. And when I read those words, I see a direct line to the only thing we have to fear is fear itself.